You know that feeling staring at a massive code base just completely overwhelmed? Well, it turns out today's most advanced AI agents feel the same way. We're going to look at a new framework called SWE-Pruner that teaches AI a super important human skill: how to cut through the noise and focus on what actually matters. Okay, so we're at this incredible point where AI agents can do way more than just write a few lines of code. I'm talking about navigating entire repositories, running tests, even fixing real-world bugs. It's a massive, massive leap forward.
So, if the AI can do all that, what's the holdup? Why isn't it just our go-to software developer now? Turns out there's this one huge bottleneck that's really holding these powerful agents back.
They call it the context wall, and it's exactly what it sounds like. I mean, think about it. Real-world software projects are huge. When an AI tries to swallow all of that code at once, it gets super expensive and incredibly slow. And even worse, all that noise can just lead to confusion. You know, its attention gets diluted and it starts making mistakes.
And get this, a preliminary analysis found something just staggering. 76% of an AI's brain power, its token budget, is spent just reading code. Can you imagine? It's like trying to find one single recipe, but being forced to read an entire cookbook from cover to cover every single time you need it. That's the kind of crazy inefficiency we're talking about here.
So, okay, how do we fix this? Well, the big idea here actually comes from watching how human programmers do their jobs. Because we don't read everything, right? We're a lot smarter about it. Yeah, this comparison just hits the nail on the head. A naive AI? It's going to chug through all 10,000 lines of a file every single time. But an experienced human developer? Nah, they skim. They've got a goal, right? Something like find the error handling, and they just strategically scan to find the few lines that matter. That is the exact skill we need to teach these AIs. And that is exactly what SWE-Pruner does. It's a framework built to give AI that human-like superpower of selectively skimming code so it can focus its attention only where it's actually needed. So how does this actually work? Conceptually, you can think of SWE-Pruner as this really smart filter, or maybe like middleware. It sits right between the AI agent and that giant code repository. So when the agent asks to read a file, SWE-Pruner jumps in, intercepts the raw code, and filters it down before it ever overwhelms the AI. The process is actually beautiful in its simplicity. It's just 3 steps. First, the AI states what it's trying to do, which they call a goal hint. Something simple in plain English like, find the user authentication functions. Then a really lightweight neural skimmer uses that hint to go through and score every single line of code for how relevant it is. And finally, only the most relevant, highest scoring lines get passed to the AI. So it gets the gist, the essential info, without all the junk. And hey, a quick shout out to the amazing teams who put this together, the LMSE lab at Shanghai Jiao Tong University and the Douyin group over at ByteDance. Really innovative work. All right, so it's a really clever idea on paper, but does this whole human-inspired approach actually work in the real world? Let's dig into the results from the testing. Okay, first up, let's look at the most obvious impact: token usage. And wow, the difference is just night and day. SWE-Pruner drastically cuts down the total amount of data the AI has to process, and that translates directly to lower costs and way faster performance. And it's not just about reading less, it's about thinking smarter. See, by getting a much more focused context, the AI can solve problems in way fewer steps. It stops making all these redundant exploratory moves because it has a much clearer picture of what it needs to do next. So on this super tough SWE benchmark, the results are pretty stunning. SWE-Pruner slashed the total tokens used by an average of 40.5%. Just think about that. For any company using these tools, that's like cutting your AI cloud bill almost in half. That is a massive, massive efficiency gain. But here's the kicker. This is what makes it a real breakthrough. All of that incredible efficiency comes with less than a 1% drop in the task's success rate. So it's getting the job done just as well, but with almost half the effort. It's all signal and basically no noise. And if you look at its peak performance, it's even more mind-blowing. On certain specific tasks, SWE-Pruner managed a compression ratio of nearly 15-to-1. It was delivering only the absolute most critical sliver of information to the AI. You know, this quote from the research paper really just sums it all up perfectly.
They say that by filtering out the redundant info, the AI can locate issues more precisely and make more decisive decisions. It's simple, right? Better input leads to better output.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. Why is a tool like this such a big deal? I mean, why is it more than just some clever optimization? What does this really mean for the future of AI and software development? So here are the key takeaways. First, this makes AI coding way cheaper and faster. That's a huge one. Second, the agents themselves become better problem solvers. They're more efficient. And that makes them way more practical as actual collaborators you could use day to day. But here is the most important point, I think. The real genius here isn't just about removing text, it's about adding focus. It's about making the AI smarter, not just making the context smaller.
And that brings us to one final, pretty mind-bending thought. We just saw a framework that teaches an AI to read code with the selective focus of a human expert. So the natural next question is, how long until it can truly reason about that code with the same kind of intuition and insight? Because that's the future this kind of work is pointing us toward.